Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson from Velocity 2016 in Santa Clara. I'm here with Shane and Todd. How you guys doing?
Great, Mike. How are you?
Good.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. So how's the conference been? You
Always
guys
a
are doing
pleasure.
well, but the conference
I
itself?
love coming here. It's actually my first time as just a guest.
An
Walking
attendee.
around, picking up swag. And
Yeah?
it's been a lot of fun.
And the keynotes?
I love it. Best
Good.
part.
I mean, one of the favorite pieces, I guess, for me every year is Ignite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Last night, Ignite was just fabulous.
And a couple hilarious ones too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. Good. So you guys, we talked last time, you were just about to write a book.
Yes.
And you're now complete. And what is it?
So we actually have a copy here. So it's Effective Performance Engineering.
Uh-huh.
And not only did we finally, get it out and release it on the 6th of June this year, but we also did a phenomenal book signing last night at the opening reception. So I think, for me, at least that was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Be able to interact
surreal.
with, other folks in the community.
So what is effective performance engineering? Not the book, but what are the principles behind effective?
So I think, at the beginning of it, it all starts with, there's this tribal knowledge that has kind of come up, and it's passed from generation to generation. You learn as a practitioner, but you always have one or maybe two mentors.
Yeah.
But it's been this tribal knowledge. So to make this effective performance engineering, and again, this is where Shane and I had this passion for how do we put that on paper? How do we enable it to be shared, enable other people to be able to learn from it, and then what they learn to be able to go ahead and broadcast and share that in the community as well.
And so how does that manifest itself inside of a company?
First, I want to say that this is kind of like a primer, right, for people to understand what are the questions they need to ask, what are the things they need to think about. Not everything they need to do is in here. Obviously, there's a lot
Not a
of
definitive guide.
No, there's
Yeah.
a lot of great works out there. You guys have published a lot of great material, but kind of just framing it all in the context of a business problem and saying, what can we do to improve business performance, customer satisfaction, revenue, brand recognition, all of these things. In the context of performance engineering. So for the reader, it's kind of a starting point rather than the end goal.
And once they get started, what are you getting them started? Just performance engineering or the whole cultural and tribal part of it?
So there's a lot of mention of culture in here. We talk about how do we socialize the different things that people need to be thinking about in an organization. As Todd mentioned, there's a lot of knowledge that's handed down from mentor to practitioners over the years, but I think there's this sense that DevOps changes everything and discards everything that came before, but what we're finding is it's actually, in this particular area, performance engineering and DevOps is even more critical. It's more relevant than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. When you had everything in your own hands in one full stack, it's a different world. So when you don't control everything, this is actually more important.
Excellent. So do you guys have steps that someone is going to get through this? I mean, is there a starting with A and going to Z, or starting with 1 and going to 10, or is there anything like that?
It's funny. So Mike, there is a lot of content in this book. There's 4 chapters. It's only 111 pages. It's a 6x9 paperback format. You can also download an electronic version. But as far as there is a list, it's not until you get into the latter parts of the book.
Page 104?
I believe it is page 104. Let me double check that real quick here. So if we turn to 104, yes. So we've got the path to performance engineering. And there's 12 different steps that we cover there, starting with defining the culture. I mean, as Shane had mentioned, the culture is kind of where you want to start. Understanding what is the culture of the organization, what's their tolerance, how is it that they look at and think about quality, how do you build performance in at the beginning, then thinking about building that team. And again, going across all of your stakeholders. Unfortunately, I think today in performance testing, people are immediately thinking about tools. But let's take a step back. Let's think about that team. Who are the business stakeholders, the technology stakeholders, who are end users? Then as we get into number 3, it's choosing those metrics. This isn't throw all the quality metrics out there and evaluate every single developer. I mean, Shane and I had a conversation last night with someone out on the book signing, and what metrics are important. And again, there's some examples in the book that I would point people towards. Here's two very simple ones, providing an information radiator to that team, but choosing those metrics. The fourth one, we do start talking about adding technology. How is it technology can enable you, again, building in this performance, making it a piece of the culture, having those metrics, and building the right team. But these are just the first 4 out of the 12.
Right. So are you guys actually drinking your own champagne at HP? I mean, are you actually doing this as you're writing about it? Is this part of your practice at HP?
So I guess
HPE?
It is, and I know that Shane is probably in the best position as a product manager to talk about it a little bit.
Right. So I actually came into HP as a customer. And a lot of what I learned for 10 years working at a large financial institution is kind of worked its way into the culture at HP and is kind of represented here. And the same from Todd. It's mostly experience as practitioners that we brought along with us. And I think influenced a lot of how we deliver software today at HP, using our own tools to deliver our own tools. But just how do we think about the customer problem? How do we think about, the delivery cycle? And everything is kind of touched upon here. It's often thought of as something that, as Todd mentioned, is taken care of in performance testing, but that's such a small piece of it. It's really about sort of the end-to-end and how do we even think about performance.
So I guess, Mike, the part that gets me excited is I came to Hewlett-Packard about 2 years ago with the acquisition of Shunra Software, which is the capability, which is now known as network virtualization. So what I've seen over the last 2 years is how using these practices, again, we've continued to take this capability of network virtualization and build it into almost every single product for the purpose that our end users or our customers need to be doing effective performance engineering. That's why network virtualization is now being built into these products.
So if all your customers and all your partners and people you work with had the same understanding, life would be much easier to work together? Is that a true statement?
I do think so, and I want to, clarify that there is no mention of product in here.
True.
Right.
What we try to do is collect information from around the industry, from our peers, from, in many cases, competitors, because I think it's important that we're speaking the same language, that we're using the same measurements to get the problem solved for our customers. Whether you're customer facing yourself or you're selling to another business, the problems are very similar.
It's like anything. If we have a standard or at least a similar nomenclature and we're all on the same page, it's going to be much easier to work together. So if you guys fast forward 12 months from now, is there going to be another volume or another book? How do you follow on from what you have here? I'm not trying to poke you to get something done, but is there a follow-on to this?
I think the feedback that we received last week at HPE Discover, the feedback that we've received here at Velocity has been absolutely, overwhelmingly yes. And many of the practitioners we speak to want to help us with the second edition. I'm excited about that part. I've also, thinking about DevOps and what is it that we could, contribute there. But the big one for me, I think, is the precipice that we're all upon with IoT. And when I speak to my peers about IoT, it's right, we've all been doing performance testing.
Unknown.
We've all been thinking about security. We've all been thinking about functional user experience or user interfaces. But now with IoT, it's going to hit this huge accelerator. Well, performance engineering, and quite frankly, effective performance engineering needs to be at the forefront. But again, what does that mean with IoT? How do you start putting all the other pieces together? Thinking about the big data, thinking about the deep learning, all the different algorithms in those pieces. So again, I'm passionate in all of these areas, but again, it's all the same purpose of taking this institutional, some of it being the tribal knowledge that does exist out there and being able to bring it and publish it together.
Excellent.
Just to add to that, I think the hardest part for us here was to trim it down to this size. It was intended to be much longer, and I think if given the opportunity, I'd love to participate.
So I think Mark Twain said I would write a shorter book if I only had more time. Kind of true, huh?
It is.
Yeah. Very good. Well, gentlemen, we look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.